In this video, we're going to look at multi-step equations. Our goal here at the top says to isolate the variable by doing the opposite operation to each term in the equation. All right, so this is things that we've already done before. Maybe you've seen them in 7th grade. We've done a little bit this year in 8th grade, but we're going to kind of review and do some examples here. All right, so our first example says 8 times the quantity of p plus 1 plus 3p equals negative 14. So our goal here is to solve for p. So the first thing we want to do is we notice the parentheses. That means we want to do the distributive property. When we do the distributive property, we're multiplying the number or the term that's on the outside of the parentheses by each term that's on the inside. So 8 times p would be 8p, plus 8 times 1 is 8, and now I continue to write the rest of my equation, plus 3p minus 14. Now I want to look and see that I have like terms. Okay, so I have 8p plus 3p, so that would be 11p. Now I write the rest of my equation, plus 8 equals negative 14. So I'm just doing one thing at a time. Now I want to subtract 8 from both sides. So I get 11p equals, these 8s are opposite, so they canceled. Negative 14 minus 8 gives us negative 22. Our last step is divide both sides by 11, and we end up with p equals negative 2. All right, our second example says write an equation for the area of the rectangle, then solve for x. So we do a little bit of applying here. It tells us that the area is 42 square units, gives us one side is x plus 5 and one side is 6. Well, we know that area equals the length times the width. Okay, so it tells us area is 42. The length we would say is x plus 5, the width is 6. So since this is an expression, I want to write it kind of like how this is written. So I could say 6 times x plus 5. Now I solve that. 6 times x gives me 6x. 6 times 5 gives me 30. And that's still equal to 42. Subtract 30 from both sides. Those cancel. 42 minus 30 is 12. Equals 6x. I'm trying to get x by itself, so I divide both sides by 6. And 12 divided by 6 is 2. So I'd say x equals 2. Okay, so those are my first two examples. The next sheet we're going to look at has 4 additional examples, and a couple of them dealing with some more shapes, and a couple of them dealing with some words that we're going to write equations for and then solve for the variables. Okay, so we have to read carefully what each question is asking us to do, because some of them are going to ask us to do maybe just solve for the variable, find the missing angles, find the side lengths, along with just finding the missing variable. So number 3 says write an equation, solve the equation for x, and find each angle. Okay, so what do we know about triangles? Well, we know that the 3 angles, they add together to give me 180 degrees. So I could write it like this: 3x minus 2 plus 7x plus 3 plus 2x minus 1 equals 180 degrees. So now I have 3 expressions over here, and all my terms are on the left side of the equal sign, so I can just combine some like terms. So I have 3x plus 7x, which is 10x, plus 2x gives me 12x. Now over here I have negative 2 plus 3, which would give me 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So I could say 12x plus 0, 12x minus 0, but that really doesn't change what my 12x is equal to. It's just 12x, right? Because I'm adding 0. So now I can just go ahead and write 12x equals 180. Okay? So just to recap there, we did negative 2 plus 3 got us to 1, minus 1 got us to 0. So now we're at 12x equals 180. So we're going to divide both sides by 12 so that we can isolate the variable x. So divide by 12, and we get 180 divided by 12 is 15. So we know x equals 15. So that's the first part. Now they want us to find each angle. So if I look up here, plug in 15 for x, 2 times 15 is 30. 30 minus 1 gives me 29 degrees. Okay. Over here, I plug in plug in 15 for x. And I do 7 times 15, which gives me 105. And I add 3, so I get 108 degrees. Then over here, plug in 15 for x. 3 times 15 is 45, minus 2, I get 43 degrees, okay? So if I want to check myself, I could add those together, 108 plus 29 plus 43, and it should equal 180 degrees. So make sure we've done everything. So write the equation, solve for x, found each angle, so we're good. All right, let's move on. Example number 4 says 2 less than 4 times a number is equal to 2 more than 3 times the same number. So anytime they say number here, that's going to be our variable, right? That's x. We look here, 2 less than 4 times a number, okay? When we write numbers for this, 2 less than 4 times a number, that makes it look like 2 minus 4x, but really, we should write that as 4x minus 2, right? The order in subtraction matters. Addition, it doesn't matter, but subtraction, it does. So this means 2 less than 4 times a number is equal to 2 more, which would be plus 2, than 3 times the same number. So here we would say 3x plus 2. And now we solve for x. We add 2 to both sides. Those 2's are opposites, so they cancel. So we get 4x equals 3x plus 4. Subtract 3x from both sides. And we get 4x minus 3x is just x. And 4 is what I have left on the right side. So x equals 4. Moving down here, number 5. Find the value of x so that the figure is a square. What is the length of the sides? So we got to find x, then we have to find what each side is equal to. And since it's a square, we only have to find, or once we find both sides, it should give us the same thing. All right, so for this to be a square, all the sides have to be what? Have to be equal, right? So I could take this expression and put it equal to that one. 2x plus 4 is equal to 4 times x minus 1. Distributive property on both sides. 2 times x plus 2 times 4 is 8 equals 4x minus 4. Okay, now we're going to add 4 to both sides. Those 4's cancel. 2x plus 12 equals 4x. Subtract 2x, and we get 12 equals 2x. Kind of run out of room, so I'll write it right here. So 12 equals 2x. Divide both sides by 2. So we get x equals 6. All right, so that's our first part. We want to find the length of the sides now. So we plug in 6 here for x. Okay, so right here we would get 6 minus 1, which is 5. So this would be 4 times 5, which is 20. And over here we have 6 plus 4, which is 10. And 2 times 10 is 20. So we found each side is 20 units. We didn't have a measurement there. Okay. Number 6, our last example, says 4 times the sum of a number and 3 is equal to 8 more than twice the same number. Okay, so 4 times the sum of a number and 3. So that's going to be x plus 3, a number and 3, and that's times 4, is equal to 8 more than twice the same number. So twice the same number, 2x, 8 more plus 8. So my equation, I have 4 times x plus 3 is equal to 2x plus 8. Start off by distributing. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 3 is 12. And I just rewrite the right side of my equation. Now we're going to solve. All right, and if you've been wondering, how am I starting this each time? It really doesn't matter. I could start by subtracting 4x from both of these terms, subtracting 12, subtracting 2x, or subtracting 8. The first step really doesn't matter. It's up to you. As long as you do them correctly, you're going to end up with the same answer. I usually just pick one that looks good and start with that because you got to start somewhere. So minus 8, minus 8. Those 8's cancel. This is 4x, 12 minus 8 plus 4 equals 2x. Now I want to move the 4x over here. So subtract 4x. Those 4x's cancel, and I get 4 equals 2x minus 4x, meaning negative 2x. Divide both sides by negative 2. So I would end up with x equals negative 2. So remember, we're solving our equations, especially on the word problems here. Make sure we're doing a good job of, especially with subtraction, making sure our terms are in the right order. Make sure we're answering every part of the question. Make sure we're Doing the opposite operations, if we have a positive number, to undo that operation, we have to subtract. If we're multiplying to undo that, we have to divide. Solving multi-step equations.